Hello everyone. Today we are reading Misty of Chincoteague by Marguerite Henry. I'm reading her 60th anniversary in the book. And let's begin. So we're starting on Chapter 1, Part 1, Before Misty. Chapter 1, Live Cargo. A wild ringing neigh shrilled up from the hold of Spanish galleon. It was not the cry of animal in hunger. It was the terrifying bulge and alarm call. The captain of San Cristio strode the poop deck. "Cursed be that stallion," he murmured under his breath as he stamped forward and back and forth. Forward and back, forward and back. Suddenly, he stopped short. The wind, it was dying with the sun. It was spilling out of the sails, causing them to quiver and shake. He could feel his flesh creep with the sails. Without wind, he could not get to Panama. And if he did not get there, and get there soon, he was headed for trouble. The Moor ponies would be delivered to the vicary of Peru, could not be kept alive much longer. Their hay must grow musty, and the water casks were almost empty. And now this sudden calm, this heavy warming of a storm. He plucked nervously at his rusty black beard, as if that would help him think. "We lie in the latitude of the white squalls," he said, a look of vexation on his face. "When the wind does strike, it will strike with fury." His steps quickened. "We must shorten sail." He made up his mind. Cupping his hands over his mouth, he bellowed orders. Furl the top-gallant sail. Furl the courser and to the main topsail. Shorten the fore topsail. The ship burst into action. Forward and aft, all hands came running. They flew to work furiously, carrying out orders. The captain's eyes were fixed on his men, but his thoughts raced ahead to the rich land where he was bound. In his mind, he could see the mule train coming to meet him when he reached land. He could see the snaking its way along the gold Rome from Panama to the seaport of Puerto Rico Bello. He could almost feel the soothed hard gold in the packs on the donkeys' backs. His eyes narrowed greedily. "Gold," he mumbled. "Think of trading 20 ponies for the weight in gold." He clasped his hands behind and resumed his pacing and murmuring. The victory of Peru set great store by the ponies, and well he may without the ponies to work the mines. There will be no more gold. Then he clenched his fist. "We must keep the ponies alive," he thought. We brought him up sharply. The shrill horse's call. Again it filled the air about him. With a wild ring, his beady eyes darted to the lookout man in the crow's nest, then to the men on deck. He saw fear spread among the crew. Meanwhile, in the dark hold of the ship, a small bay stallion was pawing the floor of his stall. His iron shoes, with their sharp rims and turned heels, threw a shower of sparks, and he felt strong charges of electricity. His nostrils flared, the moisture of the air, the electricity charges. These were storm warnings, things he knew. Some inner urge told him he must get his mares to high land before the storm broke. He tried to escape, charging against the chestboard of a stall again and again. He threw his head back and bulged from stalls beside him and from stalls opposite him. 19 heads from the stall's pointed ears peered. 19 pairs of brown eyes whitened. 19 young mares caught his anxiety. They too tried to escape, rearing and plunging and rearing and plunging. But presently, these animals were no longer hurling themselves. They were being hurled. The ship was pitching and tossing to the rising swells of the sea, flinging the ponies forward against their chestboards, backward against the ship's side. A cold wind spiraled down the hatch. It whistled and screamed above the rough voice of the captain. In way only the deep thump of the thunder. The sea became a wildcat now. and the galleon her prey, she stalked the ship and drove her off course. She slapped her, rolling her victim from side to side. She knocked the spars out of her and used them to ram holes in her sides. She clawed the rudder from the stern post and threw it into the sea. She cracked the ship's ribs, and they were brittle bones. Then she hissed and spat through the seams. The pressure of the sea swept everything before it. A huge basket filled the gravel of the ballast, plumbed it down the passageway between the ponies, breaking up stalls as they went by. Suddenly the galleon shredded. From bow to stern came an endless rasping sound. The ship had struck a shoal, and with a ripping and crashing of timber, the hull cracked open. In a split second, the captain, his men, and his live cargo were washed into the boiling foam. The Wildcat Sea yawned. She swallowed the men. Only the captain and 15 ponies managed to come up. The captain bobbed aside the stallion and made a wild gasp for his tail, but a great wave swept him out of reach. The stallion neighed encouragement to his mares, who were struggling to keep afloat, fighting the wreckage and the sea. For long minutes they thrashed about helplessly, and just when their strengths were nearly spent, the storm died as suddenly as it had risen. The wind calmed. The sea was no longer a wildcat. She became a kitten, fawning and lapping about the pony's legs. Now their hooves touched land. They were able to stand. They were scrabbling up the beach on Chincoteague Beach. That long, sandy islands were settlers, the tidal water country of Virginia and Maryland. They were far out the mines of Peru.